Hi, my name is Mary Erickson and I'm with the Danforth Art Museum in Framingham. You have probably heard of us. We've been around since 1975, but we've been in our current building on 14 Vernon Street off Framingham Center Common now since 2019. And we're thrilled to be a part of Framingham State University. And today I'm here with a Brazilian artist, Julia Csekö. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we got to the point of having Julia on this television program. So we want to engage more community than fits on our walls, than the artists who have work on our walls. So I started a program called Beyond Our Walls, where I interview people and do a write-up about them and show their art, and so that people can see that we're engaging other parts of the community, and it's just wonderful. So last year, I wanted to take that a step further. So we took three of the Beyond Our Walls artists and had a program called Community Conversations Through Art in the museum. And the artists could bring their art. We had easels set up and set it up with the other art. And then we had people come and listen to them speak and have communication with them, conversation with them. It was really wonderful. So this year, we decided to try and engage the large Brazilian population in Framingham by having two Brazilian artists who will speak for an hour in Portuguese and then in English about their work and process, and be in conversation with the community members who come. So Julia is our first, and this is our first bilingual program that we've had. So we're really excited, and we hope people come. So I'll let Julia tell you a little bit about her story. Take it away.
Thank you, Mary. So excited to be here with you, and so excited for this program. Well done, Danforth Museum, for addressing things in people's native language. And well, I'm Brazilian American. I moved here about 12 years ago. And I came to do a master's degree, and I ended up staying. So, I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I work with many things. I'm a sculptor, I'm a painter, and sometimes a performer.
And is it, Julia, when you say that, it makes me think I know of other artists who the media, the project or the idea drives the media. Like, so you think of something you want to do, and then you figure out what media best to do it. Is that kind of how you go?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you caught that from our previous conversations. Yes, I think I work with different materials in a circumstantial manner. So if I have a public piece, I have to think about what can withstand the elements and what can be outside, and how do people interact with the materials that I'm working. Even when I'm painting, if I'm doing a mural, so much different than painting a painting for a space that's like the size of a home. You have to think about walls, things that fit through the door. I've heard, and I've actually made paintings that would not fit through some doors. So
wow,
you have to be careful when you're doing that.
Yeah.
And the sculptures that I make there's many ways that I work with sculpture, but mostly with fabrics. I think that's kind of one of the things that's always been in my production is the textiles in some way or another.
So that's a constant in some way.
Yeah, in some way, I would
Whether
say.
it's draped on a body, like one of the pieces I remember from your studio, or the canvas on a wall, or whatever.
Yes, and wearable art too. Why not?
Right.
Yeah, that's like a combination of sculpture and textile, and well, I wouldn't call it utilitarian, because I think the work that I made that is wearable is not necessarily very practical to wear. But then again, you could if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me too of your ribbons.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not clothing, but it's fabric, and I love if that's a project you'd like to speak about, or another current project, that might be interesting.
Well, No, this is a good one to start with because I'm going to start the Salem Public Artist in Residency in May, and I am actually going to have this piece in Salem for the summer. So between June and September, this piece is going to be there. So here all, come visit me in Salem. But essentially what this piece is, it's a modular structure that's covered in over 2,000 ribbons that are very brightly colored, and they all say, "You are welcome here," in 12 different languages that are commonly spoken by immigrants in the greater Boston area. So this is all actually comes from a Brazilian custom. There's this beautiful place in Salvador, Bahia, Igreja do Senhor do Bonfim, and people go there to tie little colorful ribbons on the fence of this church. So these fences are just like completely covered with these beautiful little colorful
that's fabulous
ribbons. It's gorgeous. So I wanted to bring a little bit of that joy and that like visual excitement that this material brings to me. It's also like my father is from this place, and like my grandma and my aunt always sent me these ribbons when I was growing up. So, you know, it has like a place in my heart. And I don't know, I like sharing things that are joyful. And I think that immigrant populations are amazing, and they bring so much culture and excitement, music, food, you name it. Like there's so many things that our immigrant populations bring.
like your colorful scarf.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
This is actually really similar to the colors of my piece. I was thinking about that when I looked at it. I was like, oh, that is uncanny. So there we go. Color every day, right?
Well, and Julia, just so the, people have a sense, the size of this piece that you're talking about, because it's already been constructed in Boston, and now you're recreating one. If you want to describe to them how big it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's modular, so it could grow, but right now I have a version of it that is about 5 by 3 feet. So it's like a scale of what you would maybe see as like a public like statue on a square. I think it takes about that amount of space, but you can't miss it because it's very, very, very colorful. And it's, you know, the fence is yellow and there's like construction signage on it that invites you. Because actually, I didn't mention this, I think, but actually, you're supposed to interact with the piece. So you're supposed to take a ribbon and tell an immigration story. So in this particular setting, I'm really excited about because people are going to actually be able to come in and sit down in my residency studio at Artist Row and, you know, have time to like contemplate and think about a story that they want to tell, but in a comfortable environment.
Now, Artist Row, what is that? Is that a bunch of studios? Is that?
No, Artist Row is really awesome. Salem is so cute and adorable, and I love it. And it's essentially a street that has a restaurant, a few like shops, like stores that are, they sell all sorts of like cute things and like art and Salem weird little knickknacks and memorabilia. I don't know, you name it. There's everything, and it's a little commercial street. And I'm the artist in this area. And this is right next to the Peabody Essex Museum too. So if you want to visit the Peabody Essex Museum, the PEM, you can just like walk a block over, and I'll be right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun day trip. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. And the sounds like this, what you created here is different than the fences in Brazil because they're adding, people are taking away, and then when they write their story, do they put it in a box? What happens to that?
So yes and yes.
Okay.
I actually have a mailbox and QR codes in this piece. So you can use a virtual augmented reality where you scan something and you get taken into a link where there's a form. Also, this piece has a resource list where people can find a lot of organizations that support immigrant rights locally and nationally. So, if you are looking for legal representation, there are many organizations and you're an immigrant that do this type of work. If you're looking for English lessons or people to help you find jobs or enhance your job search, and you're relocating here as an immigrant, all these organizations can help you with that. So that's another thing that is kind of embedded in this piece. Mm-hmm. And the difference, I think, there's many differences. I think that the spirit of the ribbons is more the beauty of the sheer quantity and color that they bring and the brightness. Mm-hmm. But yes, I'm actually giving something away because I want to repeat this until it's understood that yes, immigrants are welcome here. We're most people, I think it's 1 in 6, it's on my website, 1 in 6 people in Massachusetts is like an immigrant, and then I believe, I don't know the number exactly, but it's 1 in 7 is like from an immigrant family. It's a lot of people in Massachusetts. Right. So, and country-wise. So, I feel like we need to find more compassionate ways to, welcome.
Like celebrating their stories.
Exactly.
Is the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Really.
Exactly. So my idea is always also of gift giving, of like this idea that you don't have a commercial exchange. You have an exchange that is, you're telling a story, and in exchange, I'm giving you a ribbon as like as a welcoming gift or whatnot.
Right.
But it even doesn't have to be that. I mean, I really just want the ribbons to spread and the message to spread.
Right.
But I'm also really excited to hear the stories because I'm hoping that by hearing these stories, I will, learn and find other ways that I can support these populations, but also maybe make more art that is inspired by these people and these stories. So that's something else that I've been thinking about with this piece. Yeah.
And you'll know as you read the stories, the inspiration will come.
I hope so. Yes. Yeah.
Now, Julia, when I think of you, and now Julia and I have only met once, but we seem to be able to talk for hours. So there's that. But I would consider you an artist activist. Is that, or an activist artist? Would you speak of yourself that way, or?
Interesting. I'm always cautious to take on that denomination because I actually have worked as an activist and I have done activism work, and I find that it's a little different. I think that they are intertwined. Yes, I don't want to just say that it's completely devoid of activism. I think this particular piece is more in line with that, especially with leading people to a resource list.
Right.
That has,
that's what I was thinking.
And people can donate to these organizations too. That's another way that people can contribute.
There's another QR code to donate.
No, this is just go in there and find the places.
Right.
If you are feeling particularly strongly about one of the organizations that's in that list, I would love for people to actually donate. If they feel inclined, if they have the ability. But I think that what I think of myself is more of an arts advocate in general. And I think that I have specific pieces that are more related to activism, but activism is like a full-time job. And I've done a lot of organizing, especially in Brazil, but here too. I mean, in Somerville, we're trying to get we're trying to protect the artist buildings that we have in Somerville and trying to fight gentrification and keep creatives in Somerville, which is a highly densely populated city with a lot of creative people. So I think in that sense, the activism is more present. And then in my art, I think it comes in as an element, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, and it's with I'm an artist as well, as you know, and my art doesn't have meaning like that. It's just bright and joyful and colorful, which is not, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but yours is imbued with more meaning in that it comes from a social justice perspective. So not surprising you did activism, straight out work before, because it's sort of in you and your art is just, you know.
Yeah, maybe another way that we can put it is like socially engaged art.
Yes.
Because I agree with you, and I think that all art has meaning.
Right, right.
Just as you said, the joy and the brightness alone can be a really wonderful reason to make art and
Right.
to have art exist. Yeah, but I think that the socially engaged part is something that I have always been very concerned about since my BFA in the Federal University of Rio, which I always love saying is a free university. Free education, we still have those in Brazil.
Love that.
I know. That's something that, you know, I would love to see everywhere. But anyway, so since then I was already thinking of like how to, you know, organize, especially with the art, with artists, visual artists. I think we're more insular. I see people from theater, have worked with people from theater and dance and whatnot, and music, and they're much more kind of aggregated. They're more together, and they're more used to working as groups. And I think visual artists are more isolated when they're working in their studios and whatnot. I try to fight that a little for myself and try to like think about the world and how we can engage the world and change things the way for what we want to see, you know, to make them better. So that's a big thing in my mind always. Yes, yes. No matter what I do, yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. I respect that.
Thank you.
And it made me think, Julia, how I actually met you. Was through the Somerville Museum. I had emailed a couple of years ago when we were starting to get Portuguese speaking programming at the Danforth, looking for translation, and we now have some of our text panels at the museum in Portuguese and Spanish. But you were a co-curator. That's how, for the museum. So when I emailed the Somerville Museum, which is a very active, interesting museum, it sounds like, they're the first museum I saw, I said, how do people do this when they have two languages? And I get an email from them. Okay, it's Portuguese first, English second. Bam. That's easy, right? So that's how I met you, involved with arts and organizing and what have you.
That was a lot of fun, and thank you for mentioning this. This was last year, right? Oh my God, right?
Last year, the year before, maybe? I don't know.
Either way, the Somerville Museum, that's actually a good thing to mention because the Somerville Museum has a call for proposals. So this was through this call. I was their community curator. Essentially, I sent them a proposal. They enjoyed the proposal, and then you work with them for a year in advance. It's wonderful because you have a lot of time to like plan your show and be in touch with the artists and, you know, really work towards having a museum quality show. And even though it's a small museum, you know, I think that this is so important what they're doing. And this is an open call. So anybody can go and look at their community curator grant. And this is supposed to be seed money for then, and there is a stipend or a fee, and you can use that to kind of try to fundraise a little bit more and get, you know, a bigger, better show. Yeah, and that one was Sanctuary City.
And that was about immigrants as well.
It was about immigration as well. You see, there's a theme happening.
Yeah.
My mind has been there. Yeah, and all the artists were either first generation or immigrants themselves or coming from immigrant families from several different places like Filipino, oh my goodness, I'm gonna blank, but China for sure, and South Africa, and all over, well, Puerto Rico, which I always think is a complicated one because it's actually America, but you know, it's like such a different, the language is different, so many things are different that it almost feels like a different country in some ways.
Yes.
Yes, and so it was a really good time and a wonderful opportunity to get a group of people that are talking about these issues too, and yeah, and get the conversation going. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that was art by all those different people that you curated the show?
Yes. This one I was not showing. I was only the curator.
That's so interesting. You're very multi-talented.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what direction do you think is, besides your residency might take up a lot of your energy and time for now? Do you have any other things in process?
I do, actually.
Oh boy.
So this year is an exciting year. I have the residency that's going to be 8 months, but I'm also preparing to go to Brazil in November as the SMFA traveling fellow. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm
For those who
really-
don't know the SMFA, do you want to tell them what that is?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, of course. The School of the Museum of Fine Arts. And it's SMFA at Tufts now because they're one organization, one university. But yeah, SMFA at Tufts has a annual grant cycle where the alumni are invited to apply for a traveling grant. So I applied with a project to go back to Brazil and create a new body of work, collaborating with artists there. And my whole family is there. My sister is there. It's going to be a really exciting and somewhat nostalgic, probably, process to revisit these places that are so important personally, but also historically. The project is blending this idea of historical importance and personal affection. So the university, I'm going back to the university.
Wow, Julia, that's really neat.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Now that comes after the residency?
Yes.
Okay.
That is in November. So thank goodness I have interns. They're going to be holding the fort for me in November.
Oh, good, good.
And then in January, there's an exhibition at the Old Town Hall of 2025, yes, that I'll be doing as a culmination of the residency in Salem.
Okay.
So these are the things that are happening right now. There may be some other things, but I'm still waiting for those responses, so I cannot divulge.
Can't speak.
No,
you can't speak about those. Well, tell me about going to Brazil. How long is that? And I know you mentioned before that you were married. Will your husband go?
Oh.
Or is he, maybe that's too personal. They can cut that if they need to, but.
Totally fine. I don't mind, because this is one of the things that happens when you are an immigrant and when you have family in another country. You have to make all of these decisions and preparations. So I am trying to bring my husband with me.
And is he American born?
He is American. He's completely American, and but he can go as a tourist and stay for the month. He thankfully works remotely, so that would be possible. But there variables in that, right? Of levels of how complicated his job is going to be and things like that. I have a little dog. Anyway, so, but yeah, it's just going to be an immersion in the culture and whatnot. And I hope to do things that I haven't been able to do just visiting family when I go, because it's usually quicker and holidays, so everything is closed. So, I want to go see a samba. That's the first thing I want to go do.
A dance.
It's it's music in the street, and it's very beautiful. I'm probably going to cry. It's going to be great.
So a samba, I think of a samba as a kind of dance, but a samba in Brazil is just an event, and it's music and dance?
It's more than music. It's music, it's dance, it's culture, but it's, I think what we see in America is the very, glossy, carnival parade. No, so this is in the street. This is every street corner, or some specific street corners have music. So in the Sunday, there's a little bar that some people that play really well get together, and they'll just make music for hours, and people will have cold beers. It's really hot, and just everybody knows how to sing the song, so you're kind of singing together, and it's beautiful. It's just, I wish we could do this here, right?
I'd love to go. Maybe I'm going to follow you, Julia.
Come with me.
That sounds really nice. It sounds like a combination of New Orleans, kind of outside drinking, partying, music, but more culture. I don't know.
Poetry. The samba is very poetic, so the lyrics are just beautiful and sometimes very political and very, they have historical meanings. It's a whole universe of things,
And you're going back to the school you went to art for?
Yes, I'm going
Or
to
the school you went to art for?
Well,
yeah,
that
whatever.
works.
Yeah, I guess.
It's the Federal University, which is a whole thing of itself. It's a huge modernist building. We were talking about modernism earlier, and it's just a building that literally is too big for its own good.
Yeah.
It's gigantic, and the sculpture studio where I graduated is literally made to create equestrian statues. So it's that big. I mean, it's supposed to be like for public monuments are supposed to be made in the studio. And they don't do that anymore. Like your last project in the sculpture department used to be you had to make an equestrian statue. We no longer do that.
Because
That's insane.
there's only room for so many of those, right?
I know, right? Maybe they did it as a group. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, that I know that as like a historical fact about UFRJ, but it's just a really like, huge windows and like big tubs of clay and just, anyway, it's going to be interesting to visit and and the building is like sinking because it was built in a landfill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I did sculpture there, I remember doing gesso and it would dry, so you had to run very far to the last bathroom in the corridor that was very far to wash your hands before it got dry. So you're just like running with your hands covered.
My gosh, that's hysterical.
Yeah, I know. So, there are things that are funny in that way, and you just have to like be adaptable and just go with the flow.
Well, how wonderful. Like, how long has it been since you've lived at home?
Oh my God.
I mean, you probably call Brazil home and America home at this point.
It's getting to be hard to discern which is which, but I think that I still consider myself more Brazilian. I mean, you can do the math, I don't mind. It's like I lived in Brazil until I was like 30 in Rio, and then I moved here and I've been here for like 12 years.
Right.
So it's not yet symmetrical, but I feel like I have so many roots here and like my husband and so many good friends and a great community that actually has been the thing that has made me stay.
Right.
So I think that's, I feel divided in a good way.
But it's probably been a long time since you've spent a concerted amount of time in Brazil.
Yes.
So that will be wonderful.
Absolutely. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I think my husband's family is from Ireland, and we would purposely avoid the holidays because it would be too much pressure, too much else going on. You want to go when you can just be.
And see
you'll
the
have
city
that
and
exact.
experience the city, and it's such a really interesting and beautiful and big city. There's so much happening all the time. Yeah, and like just reconnecting with people too. There's so many wonderful creatives, and the art scene in Rio is insane. It is big. It's like it's a big city kind of vibe. So
you're going to come back from your home to your other home with all these ideas burning in you, probably.
yes, that is the hope.
Yeah. Well, that's really neat. You are a busy lady.
Oh, thank you. Try to stay that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else?
I don't know. What else do we
Let's
have
see,
to talk about? What questions?
What do you like people to take away from your work?
Ooh.
What feeling are you looking for, or?
Agency.
Agency, that's a really good word.
Yeah, I do really, really enjoy when, well, maybe, yeah, let's go there.
Like agency kind of empowerment.
Well,
Or
the
like-
ability to talk about things and think about things that they might not have been thinking or talking about. So I'm going to give you an example. So
Okay.
there's the piece, the Further flags. It's like an American flag and the Black
yes.
Lives Matter
Yes.
flags, and then the anti-fascist action flag, which is the Antifa flag for those who don't know what that is, anti-fascist. And then there's the trans pride flag and the LGBTQIA plus pride flag. There's a lot of flags together. The Democratic Socialist flag is in there too. So there's a lot of loaded flags in this piece, and it was exhibited somewhere in New Hampshire, and this person was very offended. And the conversation began poorly. Let's say this.
Let's hear this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this person approached me and was like, oh, you just cut up an American flag. You shouldn't do this. This is disrespectful. And I was like, well, I understand your sentiment, but this is a piece of art, so I'm using poetic license, to create something new. And the conversation went in a really kind of quickly into the idea of why Black Lives Matter, which I strongly believe in, and this person, as an ex-cop, was resisting this idea. And we started talking about Black Lives Matter and how it is very important in a way that also the idea of police and police defunding, this is where it got really interesting. Because the Black Lives Matter flag was the entrance into this idea of police defunding. And he said that he hated the idea of defund police, which I was like, well, but let's talk about why. And he basically said, well, we need to educate police. We don't need to defund it. And then I said, well, we're kind of saying the same thing in different ways. I'm not saying that we need to defund police completely. We need to refund other programs that will benefit police officers in order to not put them in positions that they cannot deal with, such as a mental health case that, a person with a gun is responding to a call that is just a person having a mental health crisis. And we agreed. And he was like, whoa, okay, thank you.
So, Julia, I was going to say, good for you for sticking with the conversation to reach a point where you understood each other.
Well,
that's tricky.
He stopped and he was like, thank you. I did not expect that at all. I really did not. But he was like, thank you for this, because we agree. And it's been really hard to talk to people that I don't agree with. But actually, we had this conversation and we just found out that, and he was saying, I wasn't saying this, I thought that and I felt that, but I wasn't about to tell him, patronize his thinking, right? And it was a really beautiful moment of
That's really neat.
Holy cannoli, like if we talk to people in a way of like a disarming way of like not just calling them out and saying that they're stupid for believing in what they believe in, and maybe trying to understand like, why are you saying what you're saying, feeling what you're feeling? And maybe this was a lucky break, who knows? But I do like that this piece went into this really difficult place with a person that comes from a very opposite background of like being a law enforcer and whatnot. And we were able to talk. So that's
a win.
But that's agency, right?
Yeah.
That's a way of having agency. That's like coming to terms with being open to thinking about things in different ways.
And being open, having the viewer open to move towards something because of what they saw.
Yes.
Or even like people who, just to hear someone's story, like hear 10 immigrant story, and you may think, if you had some issues, you may think differently when you're done reading.
The amount of resilience that takes to be an immigrant, to like leave your family behind, to have to speak in a different language, to have to learn a different language. A lot of immigrants have like, I've heard people being like doctors and immigrating and then being anything that they could get.
Right.
Because it's just the way that it is.
Their training doesn't carry over, and they have
you have to reinvent yourself.
Right.
And just
humble yourself.
Yes, that too. Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
So all of this is something that I think about too, having had that experience when I moved here. Just like having like a career in Brazil and then moving here and being like, what? Who? I don't know anything or anyone here, and I have to like find my way. And it took many years to like, be able to show my work and work professionally as an artist. So don't give up, folks. It's all possible.
There's a message in a nutshell. Don't give up.
Don't give up. No, don't. It's, keep fighting. Yeah.
And I love coming away with the word agency too, because I think we can become, what's the word? It's not placated, but the word for
numb?
No, this isn't good to do on TV, but
no, that's okay. This is a conversation.
The word is I can't think of it. But when you get, numb, I guess is a harsher way to say it, but you don't see it anymore, kind of.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like it's banalized, and yes, and it's,
it's overwhelming to even touch the subject, or.
I feel that though. I can't find the word either, but sometimes I just need to explain it, and the feeling is what matters, right? And I think that I understand exactly the feeling that you're conveying. Yeah, so agency and like not stagnating, not freezing, right? In the face of like the adversities and the challenges of life, right? Just being like, oof. Also feeling belonging too, I think, of like feeling that there are ways to connect that are, you can connect with anybody if you put your mind to it. Again, just even that story that I just told is like, you can connect with people, even people that you don't agree, if you do it gently and respectfully. And there's a level of I think, patience that sometimes I think we all run out of, and sometimes we just also have to like not engage and
or
disengage.
just exit a conversation,
And that's totally fine too. I'm not saying you have to engage every time, but like if you feel there's room for engagement, I would always say
go for it.
Yeah.
Right. And the sense of community that you create by your ribbon project alone, even people taking ribbons and feeling a part, how many immigrants felt more welcome, part of something bigger, not alone.
Yes, and even like another touchy subject right now, like this piece was seen by a lot of kids at the tail end of last year when it was in Glendale Park. First it was in Boston, then it was in Glendale Park. But the kids, like there was...
Glendale Park is where?
Oh my God, is it Everett? I believe it's
Everett, okay.
Yeah, and there was ribbon. There will be again ribbons in Hebrew and in Middle Eastern languages, in Arab, and the kids basically just like got the two and were tying them together, like as a gesture of like putting together, like with the conflict of Israel and Palestine, just being like, no, this is wrong, and so interesting to see when children kind of already have this moral compass and they're just like, this is not okay. And I think those are beautiful moments too of like, but yeah, and there's so many like, peoples that have been spread out into the world for so many different reasons, including Jewish people. So you're welcome here, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like very gratifying artwork.
I mean, I like to think so. It's also like, it's exhausting too.
Right, yep.
Like, being an artist is like running a few marathons I don't know, a month.
Yeah.
I was going to say a week, but I was like, no, don't exaggerate.
No, I agree with you. Like just watching you have a lot of energy, and it's positive energy. So to keep that up, like you got to have that.
Yeah, you have to. There's a lot of rejection too, and a lot of no's, and you have to keep, don't give up. Don't give up.
And keep your self-esteem up, keep your motor going.
And maybe that's why I like making the art that I make, because I want people to feel this sort of empowerment, agency, desire to have joy. Joy is so important, especially in the world we live in. I feel like sometimes it's so easy to feel like we have to negate joy or just, we can't be joyful. If you're not joyful, you can't do anything.
Right. Yeah, we can be so task focused.
Yeah.
Production, whatever. But yeah, you've got to have joy.
Yeah, like community, joy, belonging, caregiving. Love is also very important. Yes.
Love of all kinds, of course.
Yes. Pluri.
So anyway.
Yes.
Well, if I had one more question to ask you, it would be, what's, of the work you've done thus far, I've been an artist a long time, what's the work you're most proud of?
Oh, man.
And if that's too hard, you don't have to come up with something.
No. I mean, I really like this piece, but the piece with the ribbons at this point, I'm very enamored with it. But there's the hearts. And the hearts, I know this is another can of worms, but
The hearts like in Framingham?
the hearts that are in my studio that are now the dress.
Oh,
But it's the show that I
yes.
just put the hearts in the exhibition space, and people were also invited to take them,
Okay.
but they had to tell a story in return.
Okay.
And that was really beautiful. And I think that there's this element of storytelling that I'm absolutely in love with. I like hearing people's stories, and I think that
Wait, Julia, hold on a
Yes.
minute. I remember vaguely I remember the dress,
dress.
but were the hearts they were shimmery fabric?
they are plushy, and like they're mostly velvet, and then some of them are vinyl.
Like suede kind of velvet.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I
and
remember.
red and pink, but really brightly colored,
Mm-hmm.
and soft. They're soft.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that I think was the most fun exhibition that I ever did, because people were so happy, because when they came in the gallery and they discovered that they could have a heart with no monetary exchange, as long as they brought me something that they could tell a good story about, that meant something related to love in their experience, I would give them a heart. And they left the object with me, and they also filled a form. It was very bureaucratic,
Yeah.
because I have an archive with everything that was given to me. But these objects went into the gallery, and the hearts were leaving the gallery slowly, and like this really large bunch of hearts started like dwindling, and the gallery became, covered with these little memories and objects that were really precious to someone. I had so much fun.
Yeah.
Just seeing how happy people were to, like, when I exchanged with them, they were just like, and I was also like, oh my God, this is treasure. And people were like, oh, this is treasure. So I was like,
Well, Julia,
so
it
fun.
strikes me, artists, your art is very different in that way, that like it's collaborative, first of all, but
Yes.
some people, like I've done groups in some workshop in Somerville where we did collaborative art. Some artists, as like I'd put my mark on it and then someone else would, and someone might scream if a mark gets covered. Like artists tend to get very invested in what they're doing, but you're like making the things and just giving them away. It's so beautiful. It's so different than painting a painting and selling it or something, or that kind of art. It's engaging, like you said, socially engaging, but it's giving. It's really beautiful.
I do believe that we are in a little bit of a crossroads in the world, and I do believe that we have put way too much emphasis on monetary exchange and accumulation of wealth, personally. And, I'm just going to go right out and say it. I don't believe in communism. That's not what I'm saying. Democratic socialism, yeah, sure, whatnot. We could get there. But, the greater good and, universal health. But, like, not having monetary exchanges is such a relief sometimes. It's just like you are not being, like, there's no paywall, right? It's like when you want to read an article and you're really excited to read it, and there's a paywall and it's not a service that you pay for, and you're really frustrated. It's like it takes away that moment, and it becomes about the interaction and what people treasure, and also it becomes about people and how they feel, and how important their feelings are, and their lives are, and their memories. And I think we just don't think enough about that. And I would like to think more about that and less about, and don't get me wrong, I like when I sell my paintings because that supports my practice.
Right.
But I have even more fun when I'm doing a project that has other sources of funding, and I can offer this experience that is just unadulterated between the general public and the art. And there is no paywall, and it's accessible. And it doesn't feel intimidating or out of reach because of money. So, yay.
Yeah, I mean, and what better kind of art than something that's out on the street?
Yes.
Anyone can approach it. So
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
The more you talk, the more I like your style.
Thank you. This is so fun.
It is
No,
fun.
we just have fun talking.
Yeah.
So this is like a vacation almost. Awesome.
So
Thank you.
thank you.
This was
That
great.
was really lovely.
Yeah, same.